This lesson is configure and format the JSON data returned from the Web API. The objectives for this lesson are to learn about the attributes that control JSON object output format, setting JSON configuration options like making properties Pascal case instead of camel case, and ignoring read-only properties. There are quite a few formatting attributes available in .NET. We use these attributes on properties of our entity classes, like the product one, to help format the JSON. For example, we can add a JSON ignore attribute to not include a specific property in the JSON output. JSON property name, rename one of the properties when it gets serialized to JSON output. JSON property order, you can order the properties, so n can be a negative or a positive number, so any property without this attribute is 0, but you can then place properties before or after using negative and positive numbers within the parentheses of this attribute. Let's take a look at some of these formatting attributes. Open up the product router and let's comment out throwing the exception. We don't want to throw the exception anymore. Then open up your product class, go to the very top, and add a using system.text.json.serialization. This will allow us to use some of these formatting attributes I was talking about. Go down to the row GUID and let's ignore that one. So that means we don't want that property and the data to show up when we serialize to JSON. The other thing I might want to do is rename a couple of these properties. So for example, the product category ID, I want to just call category ID, and the product model ID, I want to rename that to model ID when it gets serialized to JSON. One of the other ones we could use is the JSON property order. If you don't have the JSON property order on any of your properties, they are just all considered 0, and they appear then in the order in which they occur here. Otherwise, if you add one and you do like a -1, it comes before all the others. And then you could put other ones afterwards just by changing the property order. All right, now that we've done those things, let's run the application. We'll come down here to our product API and we'll try this out. It's going out, it's getting all that data and rendering all that JSON. And if we take a look here, you'll see that product number comes before all the other properties now. You'll see category ID and model ID instead of product category ID and product model ID. And you'll notice the row GUID is gone. Do you know why you should subscribe to YouTube channels? You'll get notifications when new videos appear. You'll get recommendations for related channels. It helps the channel grow, which allows me to create more videos for you. It helps attract others to my channel. Your like helps others find videos that are good. So please take the time to like and subscribe to my channel, Paul D. Sheriff. You saw how you could add the JSON ignore attribute, but what if you wanted to ignore all read-only properties in all entity classes? Well, that is something that you can configure again. So let's take a look at how we ignore read-only properties. Let's add a property here in our product class called isActive, and we'll make it read-only by just adding the get with no set. If we run this right now, let's take a look at our final results here, and we'll see the isActive at the very top here on each row, and it's set to false because that's the default for a Boolean. Let's now go back over to program.cs and let's add another option here within the configuring of our JSON options. And we're going to do an options.serialize or options.ignore read-only properties, and we're going to set that to true. So now when we run this, let's run this again with our API product. Let's get all that data again. And we'll see that isActive has completely gone away. Now these are some of the formatters that are built in. You can also create custom formatters. What you do is create a class and you inherit from the JSON naming policy class. And then within that class, you override the convert name method, and then you write whatever you want. You could return the property names as all lowercase, all uppercase, whatever you need. We can also create XML formatters if you want. You inherit from the iResult interface and you add an XML serializer. So you create an execute async method which serializes the object as XML and then returns that XML. So you have a lot of control over the format of the data that goes out. In this lesson, we saw how we can use attributes to format JSON objects, how we can override global JSON settings through that configuration method that we were using there in the program.cs. Coming up next, call minimal web APIs from client side and set up cores.